Welcome to We Build. We don't just build buildings, we build communities.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Build, the official podcast of H.J. Russell and Company. I'm Paul Bryant, along with my wonderful, lovely, intelligent, articulate co-host, Lenoya Murphy. How are you doing today, Lenoya?
I'm doing fabulous, Paul. How are you? Thank you for the compliment, by the way.
Well, you are deserving of each and every one of those. It is a pleasure doing this show with you. It's a pleasure working with you. I used to work with a company called Gallup before, I was really blessed to come work with H.J. Russell. And one of the things that Gallup did was study great workplaces. And they said that, there are certain common thoughts that are similar in every great workplace. And one of those was that you feel like you have a best friend at work. And when you feel like you have a best friend at work, it just makes the work environment so much better. Because I think about it, when your best friend is over your house, you're having fun, you're playing cards, you're enjoying their company. Well, I just want you to know, having and doing the show with you gives me that feeling. It's, I just feel secure and safe when I can look over there and I see you and I know that we're doing this together. It makes me feel good. So,
you're too kind.
I know the kindness is overflowing. And, that's probably a result of this guest that we have today, Lenoya. Yeah. I mean, this is really one of my top 5. Paul, give me top 5 people that you've met, interacted with, that, you just think are unique and special and really own their craft and own their field. Our guest today is one of those. I mean, I've learned a lot from this gentleman. Man, we worked together and spoke at similar events across the country. I mean, he's been to my home. This is somebody I truly admire, I truly know, and I'm just honored to have as a guest of We Build so that we can kind of expose him to our audience. Lenoya, his name is George Fraser. He's a best-selling author, he's an ambassador. He's received awards from the President of the United States. I mean, he's a really accomplished young man. And when we come back from this break, it's going to be my pleasure to just introduce him to you, our audience, and let's just hear what he has to say. This is going to be a good day.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. He's a very gentleman. Very gentle man, I should say. And I had the pleasure of hearing him actually about 20 years ago at a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Tennessee. And I was just mesmerized. He talked about networking as well as Black wealth. And that's the first time I had ever heard anyone speak on those topics. So it was a real treat. And today I know, our guests will deliver such insightful, educational and resourceful information for us and our listeners as well. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Lenoya, let's see if we can twist his arm and get him to talk to us about networking and Black wealth. People, You're listening to We Build, official podcast of H.J. Russell and Company, and we'll be right back. George Fraser, welcome to We Build.
Oh man, it's an honor to be on the program and to be a part of the legacy of the H.J. Russell Company. Mr. Russell is one of my favorite people on the planet. We had an incredible relationship, and you're following in those footsteps. This show honors him and the great mind that he had, the entrepreneurial vision that he had. And so it's just an honor to be sitting here before both of you and riffing, right? I haven't seen you in a long time. You look great. And this gorgeous young lady you have next to you is brilliant and beautiful. Boy, that's a hell of a combination.
It's a double threat.
Absolutely.
George, I tell you what, you come in with a bang, man. That was a quite impressive sizzle reel that not only was informative, but, I have to be honest, I had a tinge of emotion there. That was touching, brother. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That sizzle reel was just made. And by the way, Paul, you need a sizzle reel as well. I mean, you have enough stuff and accomplishments in your bag of goodies that you could absolutely do a sizzle reel similar to that, if not better. But I insisted that, I'm 76 years old. I'm an elder. And I insisted that there be no sizzle reel of my life until there was something to sizzle about. And so we just had that produced last year, and I'm very proud of it. And that's my legacy. If I get out of here tomorrow and off to heaven, hopefully it's heaven, there's something to remind a few people of my footprint. And we all need something to remind people of our legacy and our footprint. We will all have a footprint. We will all have a legacy. You just have to make sure that you document it, and you leave it and if no one, you leave it for your children.
That's such wise words. My mind is racing, George. I'm thinking back at our relationship. We met doing 100 Black Men. I was doing a national survey for them, and you were in one of the focus groups. And just thinking to how it evolved when we ended up doing that national survey for you. Pretty much I did it. Bam!
There it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There it is.
God.
There it is. There it is.
George, that's
the Gallup organization.
Oh,
right?
wow.
What happened?
George, let me say this. This is the first time I publicly said this, but you're talking about legacy. I was the first African-American vice president at Gallup. And so I got the title, I got the position, and, power is not really power unless it's utilized. Mm-hmm. And that survey for you, I just decided to do. I didn't ask. I didn't run it through any channels. We just did it. And because I was a VP with the access, I made it happen. And that was so wonderful to do that, because that data you use in that first success guide, and it just really validated, what you have been talking about for years. I just feel good to be a little small piece of that.
You're bigger than a small piece. That survey separated me from everybody else in the world that was talking about networking, right? And basically launched my career. Because not only was I articulating or pontificating ad nauseum about the power and importance of the relationships in our lives, but I now had the data to back it up from one of the most prestigious companies on the planet, the Gallup organization. So whenever I pulled that out and started talking about networking, people listened, they leaned in. And so, and I've said this to you many times, I want to thank you again publicly for not only achieving a position of power, Paul, but actually using it effectively and in a way that empowered my small business at that time, and that empowered lots of Black people to really take note about what is this thing called networking, how does it work, and why is it important. And so I want to thank you for that. I mean, you gave me the what is it? 427 Magnum gun and you put 6 bullets in it, right? That's what you do. And thank you so much for that. So I want to say that publicly again.
Thank you. And Lanoya, you want to know how he thanked me? He invited me to the launch of this study. He put something on in DC. I don't know, but one of those nice historic buildings. And he had this lineup, agenda speakers. And, George is like, he's a silver-tongued orator. He's smooth, man. He's got the Billy D thing going. And then after George was Les Brown.
Right.
Everybody knows who Les Brown is.
Right.
And then after Les Brown was Paul Bryant. And it's like crickets.
How do you follow that?
How do you follow George Fraser, Les Brown, and who is he? And I'll never forget that.
But Paul, you had the 357 Magnum. You got the study done, right? And so you had all the ammunition and the evidence of that ammunition. So you were no slouch. You're a pretty dynamic speaker yourself. Make no mistake about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And, but enough about me. Let's talk about you, George.
And I just, if you don't mind, I really have to say this. So, Dr. Fraser, I heard you like 20 years ago at a Chamber of Commerce meeting it was an event in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And that was the first time I had heard someone actually talk about networking. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how important, it would be to my career. And, I still remember some of the tips that you gave. And it made me want to develop relationships, to the point where to this day, I still have relationships and friendships that have developed through the years as a result of that and connecting. So, I appreciate that. I really do.
I receive that. And I'm proud of that. And you never know who you're talking to, Paul, right? You never know how it's going to affect and effect them, right? And so often wherever I go, people come up to me and said, I heard you 20 years ago, you were talking about wealth, you were talking about networking, and you said some things, you dropped some knowledge that changed my life, right? You don't know that when you're doing that, right? You just do it because that's what God has anointed you to do. So I received that, my dear, and you made my day. Let me just put it that way. Aside from being on this show, you made my day with just that very, very important comment. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's legacy right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
George, there's so many things I want to talk about here. We don't have enough time. I know that already.
We'll come back. This will be part 1.
Okay, part 1. We'll get him to come back. You heard that, Lanoya. I've got a witness.
Okay.
George, connecting the dots, right? You had the diaphragm with all of the dots there. I mean, your thought process behind that was to me, that was like, man, it's like God just gave you a word. Like you were like Moses, man. Could you explain that? The whole dot process?
Absolutely. The simplest way I can reiterate that is to give you a simple metaphor or an analogy as it relates to the importance of networking. That business, for example, most of us are in business, in some sort of business. Life is business. Marriage is a business. But business is about relationships. Without relationships, you have no business. Without relationships, you have no business being in business. In fact, the business we're all really in is the business of building relationships, right? This is biblical. Dr. Fraser didn't make this up. There's a beautiful passage in the Bible, John 5:30. It is a direct quote from Jesus Christ. Now, there are 800,000 words in the Bible, but only 1,100 words are direct quotes from Jesus Christ. John 5:30. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now, this was Jesus, the Son of God, He couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum. So what's up with you? Why would you think you could do anything significant, anything worth talking about, anything important on your own by yourself in a vacuum? So life is about how we comport ourselves and use the emotional intelligence that hopefully God has given us to use the management of our 5 most important emotions to cultivate, nurture, and to build relationships at work, at home, and in the community. As I've said for 30 years, introduce me to your 5 closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know and as they go, so go you. But the point here is, don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships, and manage the time that you spend with people. Why is that important? Because the biggest difference between money and time is that you always know how much money you have, but you'll never know how much time that you will have. So use that time wisely and surround yourself with the right people, because you're just not going to get where you're going without that. The bottom line on that is, if you are not where you want to be in life, it's because you don't have the right people in your life. So this is huge, and people just sort of don't even really think about it. And which means, and this is what the study brought out. The study, the incredible Gallup study on the networking differences between Black people and white people. That's really what it was. A massive national study is that white folks spend a lot more time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community, about 40% more time. Therefore, they have about 175 well-developed contacts and relationships. At the time we took this study, we were spending less than 20% of our time working on cultivating and building relationships. In fact, 41% of the people in the study, Black people, said networking wasn't even important. The most important thing was my education or was my college degree. And I'm not saying that it isn't important. It is. But you could have a Harvard MBA, but if you have the personality of a box of rocks and you cannot cultivate and develop and build relationships with other people, because you're going to have to work with and through them, you're not going anywhere in life. Right. So, yes, you do have to bring something to the table, your knowledge, your skills, and your education, but you also have to bring a personality that people like, because the bottom line of success is to do the work that you love with people that you love. Do the work that you love with people that you love. And you have to attract those people to you as they attract you to them. So that's
George,
my...
This is a wonderful spot to take a break. I mean, this definitely is segment 1. Would you agree, Lanoya? I mean, because I just want to down all it. George, we got to take a break right now. When we come back, people, you'll hear more from George Fraser. You are listening to We Build, the official podcast of H.J. Russell & Company.
He wasn't a guy who just dad loaned him a few $1 million to get started. He's an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, man. So anybody who wanted to have their own, he was that guy who gave us hope that it could be done.
Mr. Russell was critical for Atlanta at the time that we needed that.
He was famous for unlocking the unusual potential in people.
There are a number of individuals around the country who can be considered a part of the H.J. Russell University.
He could see and visualize opportunities where others couldn't, and he would just dare to step into the space.
Everything in the world he was born into was designed to be sure he did not succeed. And Herman, in his lifetime, overcame all of that.
Think of it, he's been on the lowest rung you can think of being a shoe shine guy to, being on some of the most powerful boards in town. Atlanta without an HJ, I don't know what that looks like. I don't think I want to know what that looks like.
I was determined to improve their life and my life. And in many times I said hell with segregation. I'm going to be what I want to be.
Welcome back to We Build, the official podcast of H.J. Russell & Company. I'm Paul Bryant with Lanoya Murphy. I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get back to our speaker today, George C. Fraser, author extraordinaire. George, several just rapid fire questions I got to ask you. How many books have you written?
I've written 6 best-selling books. The number one is Success Runs in Our Race. That book was written 30 years ago, as you well know. It is a modern-day classic. It is required reading in 57 historically Black colleges. It is the book that started the networking conversation in Black America and ultimately started the networking movement. And then I followed that up with Click, with 10 Truths for Building Extraordinary Relationships. And so I've written a children's book on networking. So I've been, writing a lot. I'm writing a book right now. Actually, it's a book of my quotes from 20 years of quotes. So I think you'll like it when it comes out. Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know there was one, Race for Success.
Race for Success, the 10 best business opportunities for Blacks in America. That was written about 5 years after Success Runs in Our Race. That's still available. I mean, if you write a book and it's 30 years old and it still sells 10 to 15,000 copies on Amazon, you have done something. There are very few books that are 30 or more years old that still sell, other than the Bible, that still sell thousands of copies. So it is, again, if you haven't read it, audience, pick it up. You can pick it right up on Amazon, in spite of the fact that it's 30 years old. Then Les Brown and I wrote a book together called Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failures, Blessings, which was the bestseller as well. I wrote a book about my childhood as a foster child called Who Would Have Thunk It? The First Adventure of the Fraser Foster Kids. And it's really about teaching young people the power and importance of relationships and networking. And this is where I sort of helped to create the term, it takes teamwork to make the dream work.
Man, George, and I just think about it. I know your story of childhood, and you are the epitome of just the saying that people can rise above their circumstances. You are definitely an overachiever, and when you talk about the company you keep, as far as when you were younger, the company you keep as opposed to one of your relatives. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
That's right. And also, we cannot fear at times in our lives. We have to be willing to go alone. And you don't need permission to grow. And not everyone who starts with you will finish with you. And so people platoon in and out of your life. And that's why you have to work on 3 types of networks throughout your entire life, through all 8 passages of your life. And each passage is about 10 years. Hopefully you'll get 80 plus years. I'm 76, going on 77. Hopefully I'll get 80 years. And why is it? Let me clarify that. You're a different person at 10 years old than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than 20, 40 than 30, 50 than 40, 60 than 50, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully you'll get 8 passages. And so people are platooning in and out of your life through those passages. And so you work on these 3 networks, your personal network. These are the people that hug you, lift you up, cheer you on. Right? These are the people that love you, that have your back. Let's call that your network at home. If things are not right at home, whether it's in the family or extended family, it's going to have a domino effect in every other facet of your life. So that's your personal network. The second is what I call your operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life, whether it's the place in which you work or the business in which you own, the board that you're serving on. And these people platoon in and out of your life. You help them get a specific task done in life. They help you to get a specific task done in life, right? And this is your operational network, and you're working on this network and all the different people that will come and touch you throughout your life. For your entire life. That's your operational network. That's number 2. And the third network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people who are where you want to be in life. These are the people who will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that will ultimately be your coaches and be your mentors. Those are the three networks, and we have to spend more time. We should be spending, Black people minimally should be spending 40% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. We're not there yet. We're getting closer. It's much better than it was 20 years ago when we did this study. But it has to be our vision, and it has to be one of the most important goals in our lives, the people we surround ourselves with. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question based on that. And how do you know when, like, someone in your network is not worth keeping or continuing on with? Like a bad apple, or just perhaps they just, it's just not someone you should continue on.
I classify those as toxic people. Okay. And all of the successful people that I've ever met in life has had the challenge of removing toxic people from their life. Right? People who drain you of your time, your talent, your energy, and your treasure. Right? Now, this is very easy to say, but very difficult to do, my dear. Why? Because most of these people are your family. Right? Your family. Mm. And so it's blood. And it's very difficult to separate yourself from them. I had to do it. If I would not be having this conversation with you and Paul if I had not made a big decision when I was 21 years old. When I aged out of foster care at 18, I went back to the brownstone in Brooklyn, New York that my father maintained for his children so that we would have a home to come to when we aged out of foster care, because my mother became mentally ill when I was 2. I was put in an orphanage, stayed in an orphanage from 2 to 5, then put into toxic foster care. All right. Not downplaying or hating on foster care. I'm a huge supporter of foster care. It's just the homes that I was put in the 40s and 50s, before 1945, were toxic. This is had I not, when I aged out and got back home, mm-hmm. I had 3 older brothers who had aged out before me and went back home first. They were, at the time I got out, they were into heroin. They were heroin addicts. One was serving time on Rikers Island, and they were heroin dealers, right? And I observed this, and I said to myself, I got to get out of here. So I got myself together as best as I could. I waited a year or 2, then I packed up what little I had, got on a Greyhound bus, and came to Cleveland, Ohio. That move alone saved my life. I didn't even want my family to know where I was for 5 years until I got my own life together. And then once I got my own life together in Cleveland, Ohio, that's a whole other story. I then went back to New York. My favorite brother, Edward, who was a heroin addict, I went into his apartment because I still had the key. He was high, asleep on his bed. I packed up his shit, and excuse my French, and dragged him to my car and took him to Cleveland, Ohio, right? And he never went back to New York, and that saved his life. So that's what we have to do. There are people like that, and you're going to have to identify them. They pretty much make themselves known, and you're going to have to bless them and release them. That's what you're going to have to do. Easy to say, difficult to do, but you must do it or you're not going to get where you're going.
Wow. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who you hang around, that's who you are.
Yeah. Great question.
So, George, Power Networking Conferences.
Yes.
Back to Atlanta?
Yeah. We are. So here's the story. We just finished our second virtual, won all kinds of awards for it. That was our second virtual. We're going back live next year to finish our contract at the Hilton of Americas in Houston, Texas. We had a 3-year contract with them to bring the conference to Houston. Of course, COVID came, and so we had to truncate that agreement and promise that we would pick it up when it was safe to gather again. So next year, August the 3rd through the 6th, if people want to know, 2022, August 3rd through the 6th, 2022, go to powernetworkingconference.com website, powernetworkingconference.com, and learn all about it. But yes.
Clip notes on that conference for those that don't know what it is.
Well, this was our 20th anniversary, Paul, believe it or not. Yeah, we have been putting on that conference for 20 years. So next year, and right, absolutely, you sure were. And this is where a group, top Black professionals, business owners, and community leaders come to network, to engage, to meet each other, to share their knowledge, to serve, to help others to succeed. And this is where you meet potential investors. This is where you meet potential partners for your business, for your profession. This is where you gather new knowledge from different parts of the globe, because it's a global conference, and you use that knowledge to infuse yourself with the kind of knowledge you will need to succeed in this world. So typically about 2,500 people from all over the world attend the conference, top Black professionals, business owners, and community leaders. And this is a 20-year love. And so we're planning it now for the next 5 years. Atlanta is in those plans because we started it in Cleveland, if you remember. That's where you were. Yep. And then we moved it to Atlanta. Thanks to Tommy Dortch, right? And we were only going to stay for 3 years in Atlanta, but we ended up staying 6 years in Atlanta. And we hope to come back to Atlanta because we're going to be in Houston for 2 years. And then we're going to move it to South Africa, to Johannesburg for a year in 2024. And then in 2025, that will be our 25th anniversary. We're either going to come back to Cleveland, the original place, or we're going to do it in Atlanta. It'll be one of those two cities for our 25th anniversary. So you just got a scoop, right? No one else knows what that agenda is but you. Well, thank you for asking.
I want to put a dig in. I'd love to be a panelist on that. And I'd love to talk about the legacy of Herman Russell. Herman Russell's one of those giants, Bruce Llewellyn, Percy Sutton. He's one of those guys. And part of I think my purpose here is to make that legacy relevant and to pass that on to other generations, man. And I would love to put together something on PowerPoint, utilize all the tools at hand to really share his story in a way that makes it relevant to this next generation.
Yeah, I think we have a national town hall meeting, and that's where we do a lot of legacy discussions, where we talk about the legacies and the lessons learned from the people like Herman Russell. And so we could put you as a part of that panel where you can talk about, when it comes to your turn, because there's a lot of movers and shakers on that panel. It'll be about 6 to 8 people. You can talk, because it's going to be about lessons learned from our legacy leaders. And you can talk about that. Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Mm-hmm.
That would be fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, man, I'm getting the signal to wrap this up. I don't want to wrap it up, Kurt. I want to continue talking to my man here. Me and Lanoya are enjoying this. Mm-hmm. But I got to adhere to our timeline. George, I would love, if you agree, to have Keontae schedule something maybe a month from now to kind of follow up.
Sure.
Because I just think we scratched the surface of really, kind of your work and how it helps us as a people. We just scratched the surface.
And we have to talk about wealth and part two, because Black America, from a wealth perspective, is in an existential crisis. And until Black America puts Black America first, Black America will always be last. You see, you can't be Black and beautiful. That means nothing unless you're Black and powerful. And you can't be Black and proud and let me just say that would love. White folks are planning for 3 generations, and we're planning for Saturday night. So the goal here is to win, not to look like you're winning. As I like to say, I would rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. You ain't winning. It's interesting to me, right? You ain't winning. Louis Vuitton is winning. Gucci is winning, Nike is winning, but we are not winning. It's interesting to me, and I'll close with this, that the rich stay rich by pretending to be poor, and the poor stay poor by pretending to be rich. We must flip the script on that, and we can pick on that in part 2.
Oh, my God. Wow. I love this. I love this. Wow. Lanoya, what are your thoughts? I told you this would be dynamic.
Yeah, I can't wait until the next time. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been an honor.
Lanoya, thank you. Thank you. Lanoya, are you married? Are you married, Lanoya?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. So I was going to make a proposal, but I'm going on 50 years of marriage. But if I wasn't married for 50 years, and if I was about 3 feet tall, 1 foot taller, and I had maybe 100 million in the bank, I would propose to you.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. I love it. See, there you go, people. You get it all right here on We Build. You get almost proposals. You get legacy lessons. You get scoops, national scoops. It's all here. Thank you for listening. This has been wonderful, George. You've been a wonderful guest. Starting from the sizzle reel to the close, it's been nothing but dynamic. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Lanoya, any parting words?
No, this has been We Build, the podcast with H.J. Russell and Company. Thank you so much, Dr. Fraser. It's been a pleasure.
My honor to sit before you. Thank you so much, and to serve. Thank you.
We Build, hosted by Paul Bryant and Lanoya Murphy, recorded at Kadzukian Studios.